everybody to Metzger's Only, episode 13. So, I know we're a couple behind. I don't know. It's whatever. People are hard to get a hold of. Luckily, this guy was local. Also, he may or may not do some podcasting here or there. So, there's that. So, if you don't know Mike Geisert, this is Mike.
Hey.
We'll get into Porsche stuff as far as like how he got into Porsche, what he's got now, what he's had in the past, kind of just maybe trending market stuff of how the Metzgers are doing, and that'll be a good episode. So if you want to give the whole audience how you got into Porsche, a little bit of backstory.
Yeah, man. Hey, thanks for having me on the show. So I got to go back a little bit further than just Porsche, because obviously I'm a car enthusiast first. Porsche just kind of happened. My segue into Porsche was Volkswagen. So I feel like a lot of either Volkswagen, Audi group type people kind of segue into Porsche one way or another at some point in their life. So I was an air-cooled VW guy. I had really late 50s, early 60s VW buses and Beetles, and I would mod them and hang out with folks. And I didn't actually own, well, that's not true. I owned a water-cooled Jetta, I guess. I say water-cooled, but yeah, just normal Jetta, since they were never air-cooled, so I don't know why I said that.
That's the Porsche brain already.
Yeah, right. So, I did that in my early 20s to late 20s. And in my early 30s, 31-ish, I was in a position where I was earning a decent living. I had saved up some money. I already had some cars, but I wouldn't say looking to get out of the Volkswagen scene, but I was looking to just try to hey, I had aspirations to own an air-cooled 911. So I bought one. My very first one was a G-body car. I owned it for all of 3 months because I hated the 915 in it. I didn't, guilty as charged, I didn't really do, I knew it was a 915, but I didn't know that it needed to be kind of rebuilt. So that was kind of on me. I was, lesson learned, I was kind of shopping in the sense of, man, wow, this is, a 1985 Carrera that costs, high 20s at the time. And, it had miles on it. It was really used. But, it was, cosmetically, it looked nice. I think it probably obviously had some deferred maintenance. So I drove it, and I was just like, man, I'm not really feeling this drive. I guess I was underwhelmed, I guess is the best way to describe it. But I wasn't deterred in the sense of okay, I'm done with Porsche. I was kind of maybe that's just not my jam, that 915, and I knew the research, and I had looked around, and with social media and all the things that are out there on the internet, I'm doing my late night homework, and I'm okay, hey, this G50 sounds like maybe it's more my speed. Well, if I'm going to chase a car, I always kind of like the 964. I always thought that was the bridge between having those old school pontoons, having a little bit more updated transmission. So I kind of went on a hunt for about a year and a half after I got rid of that G-body. So I still had my bus at the time, but I didn't have a sports car. And then finally I found a 964, in Georgia that was owned by Dick Barber. And in all the, I guess, in a cliche term, I guess all the stars kind of aligned as far as me buying that car. And it needed a little bit of work, but not a ton. It had, the AC wasn't working, but it just needed to be recharged. It definitely needed a cosmetic, basically cut and polish on it. It needed paint correction, all that. And then the front bumper probably needed to be resprayed, but it was minor stuff. It was stuff that I could be all right, engine seems good. So that's kind of was how I got into Porsche. That was my bridge, the Volkswagen bridge to that. I'm sure it's a story.
What's the similarities on the bus transmission and the 915? Are they anywhere near close? Or are they just, would you have been able to know that Well, I guess it would be in your first air-cooled, so you might not know that that transmission was going to need to rebuild because those 915s are finicky anyways. So you're probably just like, is this what this life is like? Or
Yeah, I think it was a lack of knowledge and research on my end. It probably would have been a lot better with synchros and like update, but I didn't actually wasn't in love with the aesthetics of the car. Meaning, like I was never really a big crash bumper car guy to begin with. I kind of chased that car mainly on price. It was a good deal. It was local. It was kind of a friend of a friend. And luckily, like I actually sold the car back to the guy because he was like, "Hey, if you ever want to sell the car, let me know. I love the car. I've had it forever." So I just kind of called him up and I was like,
later.
"Yeah, I was like, hey, this isn't what I thought it was going to be." And he didn't try to like talk me out of it. He wasn't like, "Well, it's yours now." He was, he's like, "Well, yeah, they probably do need to get rebuilt," and we kind of went through that, and I was like, "Yeah, I could go down that path and do that, but I don't know if I really want to chase that dragon." Because I'm not really like in love with the way this car looks to begin with. Like if I knew I was going to be, that was my forever car, then I probably would have dived in the deep end and went full bore on it. But I just was not like in love with the way it looked. It was more like I chased that car because that's what I could kind of afford at that time. And that was, shoot, man, that was like 2010. So I realized that I needed to get my money up even then to get into the car that I wanted, because even then, like 100,000 mile 964, I paid 39-ish for it.
Yeah. So that was double your budget there. I mean, you'd probably been about the same camp if you'd rebuilt that 915.
Yeah.
Somewhere. I mean, maybe not the exact same, but somewhere more into the car than you wanted to be in.
Yeah, pretty much. And I, at that point, I just kind of looked at it like, I had an escape hatch, and I looked at it like, okay, I got like a taste. I'm not out. Like I don't hate it. Like I just don't think this is the right car for me. So I was very fortunate in that sense that I could move that car back to where it came from, and just kind of say, hey, I basically rented that car for for 3 months. It didn't cost me anything more than basically a little bit of tax money, essentially.
Yeah.
So I got all my money back, and I just put that back in the bank, and I just started on a search, and I just kept saving money, and I realized, okay, this is where I need to be at for the car that I want to be at. I need to be around in the $40,000 range to kind of bag what I wanted, where it wasn't some like clapped out thing, but also wasn't some prize. Like I wanted to be able to drive it, so that was a big thing with that. So yeah, it was a soft entry. Like I'm lucky it wasn't baptism by fire. It wasn't like I got it and was like, oh my God, like I'm losing my ass on this thing. So that was a good thing. But lo and behold, I had the stinking 964 for like a year, and then it needed a top end rebuild. So whatever.
Still got you.
One way. But the difference was I really liked the way the car drove, the way it looked. So like for me, when that came, and at that time, I think it was like 10 grand to do to do a top end on a 964, and this was probably like, I want to say around 14, maybe 13 or 14, around then. I think at 13.
So 13 years ago.
When you hear that, you're kind of like, oh wow, especially when you're not accustomed to that. So I'm learning all of these things. And I'm kind of like, oh my God, man, this is a really expensive hobby.
Okay. So then again, you're on the whole. Yeah, you're learning by. All right. Well, now it's broke.
Yeah.
Now what do I do?
I mean, and it
Especially
could
if
have
you
went
don't have
longer,
anybody
but
in
it
the
was
room.
one of those like I've always had. No matter what cars I've ever had, it's always like if it needs it, like I don't want to cause any further damage. Like I probably could have gotten away with it for a while. But I was just like, man, I run this car. Like I had planned to go rally with it, and do very light track work with it, just to experience it. So I'm like, I can't be running around with a hurt motor. So, and then I'm like, okay, cool. So like, we're going to rebuild it and it's going to be like great, right? It's going to feel like super fast. And I'm like, no, dude, it's going to feel exactly the same. And I'm like,
it's going to feel, how does stock sound?
I was like, this sounds like a really bad proposition. I was like, I'm going to give you 10 grand and the car's going to feel exactly the same. And they're like, yep. And I'm like, he's like, welcome to the Porsche world. And I'm like, awesome. Like, so glad I signed up for this pain.
Just what I wanted. So, I mean, I know you were in the air-cooled world for a long time. What made you flip to the water-cooled side But I know you were. I know the story. I know where we're going here.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't remember. I know. I mean, I had mine in C2, and then you just had the air cooled, and we kind of just that was how we rolled for a while.
I think for me, like, and like anybody, it has, you know, it ended up in a water cooled car, whether it be a GT car or just a regular, you know, 911 base Carrera or whatever it is. I think it was for me, it was just kind of a maturation process. Like, I got a lot of education with the air cooled car, and I really liked what that provided for me. Like, I liked going to the vintage rallies because that's what I wanted to do, and I started doing that almost immediately with it. I liked the way it sounded. So naturally, I started looking at the newer ones, you know, over some time to see, as you're in the hobby and you're educating yourself, it's a learning process, and you're kind of like, oh, wow, so there's these things called GT3s, and they drive like air-cooled cars, but they're newer, and they're faster, and they're made from their race department. So then as you get on Renlist and you start reading all these things, and just pages and pages of people that, you know, have documented stuff and talked about things, and, you know, just kind of being a fly on the wall, absorbing as much information as possible and reading about them, and going through all of those things and just going down that deep dive. You know, the more I read, the more interested I got. And then, you know, as time went on, you start to see, wow, this stuff's getting legs, meaning like my car's appreciating. Those cars that I was looking at are appreciating. So I'm like, there must be something to this. Not that I was looking at investment at all, because I wasn't. But it was more of kind of like, I think I'm on a ticking time bomb here, in the sense of, if I don't buy one soon, I'm going to be priced out, because I know I have a certain budget. And if that exceeds my budget, it's just going to keep going up. It's not like all of a sudden I'm just going to get some big pile of money and just be like, all right, I can make the difference up. So I kind of felt there was a little bit of pressure there on my end. So yeah, it was an interesting thing. I think it's from a standpoint of, could I have had the 964 forever and not had another car? Absolutely. But I wanted to experience more, but I didn't want to get rid of the 964 because I had fallen in love with it, especially after the top end rebuild. I felt like I was vested in that car at that point, you know, and I felt the way I was making that car was suited for me. So for me just to like get rid of it, just to go into like a GT3, I think I wasn't ready to do that. I wasn't done with my air-cooled experience, and I'm still not. Like, I still love it. Like, I wouldn't say prefer it, but I think you and I have talked a lot before of, if I could only have one car, you know, whether it be a 964 or whatever, just higher level than that, just more generalities. Like, would you have a classic or would you have a modern classic? I would have a classic if I could only have one. That's just me. Yeah. But, you know, sense. Yeah, that's kind of, I think it, and for most folks, I think that I know, at least in the air-cooled world, that's a natural progression, I think, where till you go and you have air-cooled stuff, and then if you really love it and you have the means or the capability to get another vehicle that provides a different experience, but maybe in a water-cooled sense, I think not even just getting a GT3, just getting a water cooled, whether that be a 997 Carrera S, whether that be a 991, whatever it is. I feel like, you know, and your listeners probably know, once you're bitten by the Porsche bug in general, like, it just continues to snowball for you. Like, that doesn't go away. Like, that thirst doesn't get satisfied with that one car. You're not like, all right, I'm good forever. That's my one. And, you know, I have no desire. Whether or not you pull the trigger to do it is one thing, but I'm saying internally, like, everybody has that thirst. I feel like everybody has that, you know, when you have those conversations, they're like, I'd like to get this, whether or not they own that yet. There's always that brain is always cooking, you know, there's always stuff there. There's always something like, oh man, what's next? I don't want to get rid of this, but I'd like to add something. I'd like to have a different experience. Oh, I'd like to experience that. Like, what's that like? Especially when you stick your flag in the sand of, like, my hobby is, you know, being in the car community, you know, and if you're one of those folks, you're definitely probably going to go and get more cars. That's just how it works usually.
So I know the next move was the 996 Turbo S,
mm-hmm.
but I don't remember, was that Did you stumble upon that? Were you looking? I know you looked at aero kit cars, and I don't even know if you were looking at turbos at that time.
Well, so yeah, with our P car talk back when we were reviewing cars, so where that bug really came from is after I drove. We drove Chad's car, his 996, like basically GT2 converted car, and we drove that car, and that kind of like, oh my goodness, like, you know, kind of opened my eyes. Not that I ever disliked, you know, the way. I'm not one of those folks. I actually like the way that car looks with the headlights and all that stuff. It never bothered me. And that kind of opened up, and then you start doing the research, right? Oh, it's got a Metzger engine. It's a 996 turbo. They're super fast. And at the time, they were incredibly reasonable, right? Like, I think Chad picked his car up for like $45,000, and it was a beast, you know, and it was so fast and so cool and made awesome noises and all of the things.
Second gear was questionable.
Yeah.
But
so then I was not looking, but looking, you know, like almost like every car enthusiast does. Like when you're looking after cars or you're just keeping your eyes open on things, you know, I think everybody has wherever their sources are. You know, I was doing my daily searches and that car popped up in RMC Miami. You know, Danny posted that car and I was kind of like, we already had a relationship with them. You know, they had been on the podcast. We had been down there for DRT a bunch of times. So I wasn't really looking for a 996 turbo, but I wasn't not looking for one, if that makes sense. So when that car kind of came up, like it ticked a lot of boxes for me. Price was good. It was fair, I should say. Color was cool. Slate gray metallic. It had a lot of cool upgrades on it already. It had documentation to go with it. It went to the place when Roof used to have a place in Texas. It went there to get all the Roof add-ons. Now it wasn't a Roof VIN car, but it had the bumper, the wheel. Yeah, it had the bumper, the wheels, the freaking, you know, the shift kit, the tune, the exhaust, the rear wing. Had so much stuff. Like basically their parts catalog for the 964, you know, without changing the entire body of it and making a Roof Turbo R. It had pretty much a lot of the stuff that went with it in the receipts, you know, even for the time. And it was done in '05, like when the car was even new. And I think the receipts for it were like, you know, $80-something thousand even then. And I'm like, dude, that's insane for like bolt-ons and exhaust and all this other stuff. So I just saw like value in it. And I was like, okay, hey, this will be a good holding place for me with this car, and I want to experience that. So that's how I kind of ended up with that 996 turbo. I mean, you hear me all the time. I nothing beats that torque that car has, man. It's just, and
nope.
Like, which is nuts though. We talked about this over and over again on the other show, and the values of those things are going up and up and up. Like they are.
I just looked like a couple days ago, and they're like in the 80s now, like for miles.
Yeah,
like not even
and no special colors. Like we're talking like black and silver, and like nothing. Yeah. You know, not that if you have one of those cars, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but I'm just saying like it's just one of those things where.
Shout out to my dad.
Yeah,
silver.
You just you see that price point, and you're kind of like, and then it starts to. We turn into those old men. We're like, I remember back when those things were like $40-something thousand. You know, maybe like 50-something for like a really nice one. And now we're talking like 80 grand for something that's got like 85,000 miles on it that's bone stock and needs to have coolant lines pinned. It needs suspension. It needs all this stuff. And then you start to look at it like, is this a viable choice now? Does this make sense anymore? For me, it doesn't, but it's still a great car. I still think it's undervalued even at 80-something. If that's like your dream car and it only costs that, I think that's a great price for that car.
Yeah, I still think there's a lot of performance in that. Then the feels too. Again, you got to go drive one. The only drawback for me, and I would like to drive a GT2 when possible, or just to see if I'd like the clutch feel that we have in the GT3s and that power all at the same time.
You mean like in a 996?
Yeah.
Because we drove a 997 GT2.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah, we did.
And that thing was scary.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Which one did you think was more scary, that GT2 or the 2RS? I felt like 2RS was
no, the 2RS I felt tamed. It was a rocket ship, but that was, that's newer tech. Porsche has, you're not getting full bar boost like immediately. Like it's progressive. Like that GT2, not progressive. Like
and you saw that Corvette.
Yeah,
so that didn't stop
you
at
whap
all.
that like go pedal and you get it all immediately. So if you're in a high RPM, you better be ready because it's going to ride out real fast.
I don't know if you knew this. I think maybe we talked about it because I saw Lee Keen's and K Corey's. Those cars had launch control.
Do they?
Yeah, they go. Woof.
Huh?
Yeah, it was one of the.
But those
first
are those GT2s or are they RSs?
GT2s.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he had it in there. We definitely didn't see it, and so.
Yeah, I think it's just. I don't even know if that's probably wasn't even a button there. I think it just can do it.
Yeah, like you do the whole thing where you.
Yeah, the foot thing, throttle,
Mm-hmm.
brake, let it go.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't be brave enough to do
Yeah,
that.
I think in not too much more time. I mean, it's already happening. It doesn't even have to. Like I saw, it wasn't for sale long, and it had miles too. I mean, I'd say miles. I'm not saying like crazy miles, but not collector grade. But it was a 6-figure car, or short of it. It was like 99,500 for a speed yellow 996, and I think it had like 52 or 53,000 miles on it. And I think it maybe had lower ring springs and maybe a tune. Nothing crazy, like meaning like you're not paying, and getting $80,000 worth of upgrades. It was pretty stock is my point. And some people like that, some people don't. I don't know, but I thought that was a strong number. But if that's what the market's paying, that's what they're worth. And I'm kind of priced out on that. If that, I like them, but since I owned one, I don't like them so much where I want to own one at almost a 6-figure price point.
No, I mean not for the 996s. With it being so easy to convert. I mean, I don't know that you're ever going to take out the weight like Porsche did, but at least I guess I'd say 80% of the way there, being able to convert it. I think you'd be just not worth it.
Yeah, I think you're getting a lot. I mean, maybe we're numb to it, and it's not fair because it is a special car. If you look at it in the point of, if you pull up basically their data sheets or their build sheets, whatever you want to use for nomenclature on that, like they're all still actually under their MSRPs for the most part, unless you have like a rare one that has low miles. Like there's some boutique dealers that are charging big money for them. So the fact that the ask is there, I also know that they're not necessarily selling for that, but the fact that the dealers are putting those numbers out there, they're already trying to change the culture of the market when you go look at those cars. Meaning like, when you see them advertised for sale, if you see them out there and you're like, this one has 18,000 miles, it's polar silver, it's got sports seats, it's bone stock, we want $140,000 for it. And you're like, dude, what? But that's what it is.
I'll tell you got some deals. Whoever won those cars from Magnus.
Yeah.
And both cars had high miles.
Yeah, I feel like, oddly enough, and this sounds nuts to say, but I feel like his GT2 was, I don't want to say it was a smoking deal, but I feel like it was appropriate price on that car. Like it was like 149 and some change or something, but it had miles. But it wasn't like too mucked with. It just had aftermarket wheels on it. So in a way, it's not a collector car. You can drive the crap out of it, but see, like I see that, like I'd rather own that at 150 than a 15,000 mile 996 well-spec'd car, even if it's not a fancy color, for 150. Like that's just how my brain works. I'm like, that's not, I don't know. I'd rather go get a high mile 997 turbo manual and pay 125 for it than buy a low mile 996 turbo for the, a 6-figure price tag. It just doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't compute for me.
Well, I mean, that's for sure it doesn't compute because now you're looking at anything that's sat and all those rubber vacuum lines and everything else that's going to be going bad, and you're going to have to chase.
And I think
that's-
I'm also
that's
like a
bad.
victim of the experience, right? Like I had that experience already. Like
I know about this.
Yeah, but I mean, like in it, I didn't have any negative experiences with it. Like I enjoyed the car, but I mean, I had a manual Turbo S with all of those upgrades, and I paid $70 for it.
Yeah.
So I know it was a different time. I know, but it wasn't that long ago. You know, we're not talking 20 years ago. We're talking like
No.
7 years ago.
Yeah.
7 years ago.
Would you all over again? Would you tune it and do the exhaust and everything else you did?
Yeah, there's everything I did do on that car. I would do again. I think the only thing I probably wouldn't do, and I think it was since I was making it more of a motorsport car. Now that I feel like I'm more educated and I know a little bit more stuff, I probably would have skipped the half cage in the back. I probably would have still done the tune. I still would have done the coilovers that I did on it. I still would have done all that stuff, but I would have kept the cage out of it, just from a more of like street driven type of car, because that car wasn't going to see any track use. Yes, it was going to. We took it to the mountains. It was a pig up there. Even with the carbon ceramics. But it was a beautiful car. It was really fast. The way I like to describe it is it's capable of some twisties, but like the roads, the really technical roads, it shows you its weight class on those. And because it's so powerful, it was really wild, because when you came out of those turns and you'd have to bleed so much speed off because the car was heavy. But then when you came out of there, you could get a lot of speed. But then if you had another technical coming up, you're mashing on the brakes right away. So it's a lot of gas, a lot of brakes. It wasn't like in a good rhythm. I felt like that car never really could build a good rhythm. Like that car is like a Cherahalla car. Like that car could dominate on that road. But on Wire Road or something like that, that car is just, it's not made to do that. Like that's not what that car is for. And you learn that really quickly, like if you try to do that.
Well, because just as soon as you get into boost, you're coming back out of boost,
Mm-hmm.
and then back into boost, and then so it's probably that's true. I wonder what would be a good rhythm for that, and that's probably just honestly
Long sweepers.
mountain,
Long
I mean, I wonder if you could tune it for the mountains.
I think it'd be
Maybe
hard
somebody
because
out
like
there.
if you I don't know, if you try to make it, maybe if you made it, I mean, you'd really have to be chasing like a tune. You probably have to get a standalone where you have progressive bar through each gear, so you get a little bit more like where you would have to, you'd have
probably where it's not
you'd
low
have to
torque.
screw with your turbos and
Yeah.
get something maybe probably smaller, so you get a little bit more boost early instead of turbo lag. So you'd be chasing, basically you'd be trying to fit a square into a circle peg, when you don't need to do that, where there are cars that for that, like you say, okay, well, this is my car and I'm forcing it to do this. And it's like, that's not really the right tool for that. So, but if you use it for the right tools, like on, when you want to do like highway blasts and all that other stuff, man, I mean, the torque rush on that car is unreal and it makes a beautiful sound. I miss that car. I wish I could buy that car back for what I paid for it, but obviously that's not.
Yeah,
That's not.
that'd be real nice.
That's. I'm sure how many people have probably said that throughout the years, right?
I'm sure Peter and Danny both be like, yeah, you can buy the car back.
Yeah.
But
And actually, I mean, I
but-
think I had the car for 13 months, little over a year, before that GT3 came up, and I actually made. I guess it's all relative because I spent money, but we got, sponsorship deals and all that other stuff. So like it didn't really cost me a ton. I'd say probably the most expensive thing on that car out of pocket I paid was for the tune, because we got a smoking deal with, doing
your
sponsorship
JRZs.
stuff with Soul, and then sponsorship with stuff with JRZ. So like that stuff, that car got a lot of goodies on it that I didn't have to come out of pocket for. And I would love to just cruise that car. That car, as crazy as it sounds, it would be a beast daily driver. Like that car.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and I wish I had it back for that, because I need a daily next year. Like when I hand my Cayenne Turbo off, But yeah, I do miss that car to a certain degree, but I don't miss it enough to go pay like. I'm not sentimental enough to go out and be like, okay, well now this is even with miles is $130,000-$140,000 car. I'm like, nah, bro, I'm good. I don't need that.
Yeah, it being a Turbo S and having roof stuff on it.
Yeah, and slate gray. You know, that's one of the. It wasn't. You know, it's not. It wasn't PTS, but it was like an upcharge for that color. So yeah, it had a lot of the right things done to it. But yeah, so that's how that. And then obviously I got the GT3, the 997.1, because that's ultimately what I really wanted, even before that car. But I kind of knew when that car was a holding place, but I wanted a Metzger engine car. I wanted a turbo car, so that kind of it checked both boxes. And then I was like, okay, this is fun.
Was it like really did that solidify right after the mountains? Like after you're in there, like, well, this would be nice, but like now I'm seeing where the GT car really makes sense.
You know, that's a really good point. And truthfully, I think subconsciously, I kind of knew. And I think even when I bought that car and I brought it back, I was still looking, even though I was the owner of that car at GT3s, because I was paying very close attention to the pricing, where they were at, where they were living at. And remember, I almost bought a 996 GT3. Like I was very close to buying a 996 GT3.
Same here.
Because I had a dollar. I was chasing like I had a number where I was comfortable at. Like, and it was basically between 90 and 110 is where I wanted to be at. And I really didn't want to be at the top of that scale, but I would have done it if I had to do it. So that's why, like, there were so many 996s available at that time. I mean, 7 years ago, like I was going to be able to sell that Turbo S and literally move into a 996 and not have to come out GT3 and not come out of pocket at all. And I almost bought Drew's. Forget the color on that. I think it was midnight metallic or something like that, a navy midnight metallic. It was a cool color, and it had like, I think it had like Adavans on it or something. It was actually set up like perfect. But he ended up selling that car and it went overseas, and you know, I was kind of back at the drawing board. I had to sell the Turbo S to buy that car, and he was looking for like a quicker deal, and it just didn't work out. In retrospect, it worked out well because I ended up with the 997, GT3, which I really wanted anyways. So hindsight's 2020, but that ended up working out, and smoking deal on that car, and it was literally posted, and I sent a deposit 5 minutes after it was posted. I can't believe that car got out to the wild, like for a second at least. So then I just, moved on, and I bought that car and sent my car back to Miami to be sold, and then they consigned the car, and it sold, I wouldn't say quickly, but in a couple months. I guess that's kind of quick. But and then obviously here we are, 997 GT3, still have the car, been doing a lot of stuff to it over time. More recently, not a lot of stuff, but initially a lot of stuff. Because it was outside of the exhaust. It still had the cats on it. It just had an exhaust on it. And then I just went from there. I just tuned it.
Yeah, that was within like a week. I think you'd already had headers that are no longer made. Because then you're like, I got the last ones, but you didn't say anything about it until you got them. And like, hey, so these are like super cheap.
Yeah.
Then you told me the price, and I was like, oh.
I was like, these were made for a cup car. And they were like, they were NOS. They were sitting on a shelf in like Fort Lauderdale out of a race shop. They're like, we made these for all the 997 cups. And they're like, dude, this has been sitting here for years. Nobody's asked for it.
Nobody's been like, hey, can I have this?
Brand new in the box, never used, which was great. That worked out. I was like, that was like the only real deal that I got out of that car. Everything else was, Porsche premium pricing.
Yeah, because you just switched coilovers recently. Well, on both the cars, but on that one as well.
Yeah, I was running the PASM for a while on it. I just had the upgraded PASM box, and I was going to buy Öhlins for it back and forth for a long time. But I'm big on wanting to talk to folks that actually have them, and Corey in Orlando has them on his. So then that's what I went with on that. So Yeah, they're great. I mean, that car
Did
is.
yours go in without a problem? Like, because I've talked to other people with Olin's where it was kind of like a back and forth, and
If there was an issue, I mean, being totally transparent, I didn't do the install. Corey did. So if there was an issue, he didn't bring it up to me. And luckily with software, because if you probably know this, but those cars come with a PASM. Luckily, it's kind of a dummy system. It's either on or off when you press a switch. So it was able to do the software tune to say, hey, don't look for PASM. This car doesn't have it anymore, as opposed to having to do like a piggyback box, because Olin's does sell that and it goes on there. But then I read that, if you're on some treacherous road and that box shakes loose, like it could throw an error code because then the car gets upset. So we just went this.
I have a PASM code every time I turn the car on.
Yeah. So we went with a software route and just, so we never have that issue. So it's just out of the car, like basically eliminated off the ECU. So it's like, oh yeah, okay, cool. There's no PASM in this car.
Do you feel like you had a big difference between, since you had both the software, which you had the TSC, I don't know, I forget who makes the box, but anyways, between the box and the coilovers?
Yeah,
as far as like feel?
I would say the biggest difference that I feel in the car when I notice it is when it's under load, meaning whether it's on the track or meaning when it's coming into a corner, like if I'm trail braking and I'm on gas as I'm coming out, as I'm apexing, where I notice between the two things, the PASM box and the coilovers, with the PASM, there's a little bit of wallow in the car. Like now, obviously modern PASM's way better. Like was like the infancy of PASM really for GT cars. So like the car, and the best way I can say when I'd say wallow, like I talked to Corey about it a lot and told him what I was feeling when I had the PASM. And I'm like, when you had yours, does yours feel like this? So like when you're coming out, so the best way I can feel it is like the rear feels like it's almost kind of like, it's subtle. Like it's not like ridiculous, but like I can feel it, where the car feels like it's looking for grip as opposed to like planning itself. And with the coilovers, it's not really hunting. It's flat the whole time. There's no whoa, 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 like it's not even making that noise, but I can feel it like in the car where I'm pushing the limits of like mechanical grip in that PASM box, where it's like, man, if I give it any more juice, the back's going to come out from behind the car. So I feel like I'm at that limit, but I don't feel that in the coilovers. Obviously I have them cranked down pretty tight, so that's why it stays flat. There's so many settings on those. Like you could probably feel the same thing if your settings on your Olin's are soft. I just think that car needs to be really like rigid coming through, because when you push that thing and you really want it to bite, like you expect it to stay flat, but if you have it in a soft setting, the car's not going to be flat. It's going to move some, and you're going to be like, wow, what's going on with these coilovers? Like I thought the whole thing's, but when you have 20 different settings, like there's a reason for that.
Yeah, the infinite adjustment means infinite.
Yeah.
To make it wrong.
You're just like, crank them all the way down.
Yeah. Then you're like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a difference too. Like if nobody's driven on the more modern coilovers, like the rebound and the control is totally different than you would think if you've had stuff before.
Yeah, it's a significant upgrade over that first gen PASM essentially.
The stock, yeah.
Like
the stock stuff.
It was that box helped it out a lot, but it still isn't going to take you across the finish line where they feel like coilovers. It's a big upgrade over just the stock setting. I had a conversation, I think I told you, with that engineer that developed that box, and he said basically the best way to look at it is when you have the PASM on, it's supposed to make it 20% stiffer, and when you have it off, it's supposed to make it 20% softer. So you got a little bit more, like, and where I really noticed it actually the most, I felt like, was when it was off. Like I felt the car felt much softer on just when you're commuting or on the road. So when you're hitting those bumps on the highway or whatever, it didn't feel as jarring. So that was nice. But the Olin's are pretty, they're not, I don't feel like that it's rattling my teeth out, to be honest with you. But I've driven some really gnarly stuff, so the Safari was pretty stiff.
Yeah, So,
I mean, that 993 that I brought home was crazy stiff. Like that thing was like basically riding an alligator all the way home from Miami. Like it was awful.
Well, that's as race car as it gets.
Yeah. So yeah, I had to soften that up some.
So nothing new you're gonna do to the GT3. I mean, you pretty much. I mean, outside of coilovers and then
You know, like
GT3
long-term goals. I think I got caught up because I have a lot of friends that have built motors in their GT3s. You know, we either went from, you know, that had 3.8s. They did like 4.1s in them, and you know, some guys went to 4 liters. I thought I wanted that for a long, long time, and I'm not saying that's totally off the table, but I was for the longest time I thought I was like I needed that. I need more, but I don't. Like, so every time that car is in the mountain, like I don't feel like that car is lacking for power. I just need to become a better driver.
Did you do a lightweight flywheel yet, or have you done any clutch stuff?
I haven't done any clutch stuff, so it still has the dual mass in it. And from Corey has that in his, and he says that is really cool. When it's time for a clutch, I'm definitely going to do that. But I don't need a clutch yet, knock on wood. So, but yeah, I don't really see anything in the foreseeable future for that car. Maybe wheels. You know, maybe I might upgrade wheels at some point, but I kind of like the stock wheels, and you know, I powder coated them red, so they went from that. And since I've owned that car, I've gone back and forth of putting the cup flares on the front, that little, because it's honestly it's just a 3M stick on. I didn't know that for the longest time. I thought you had to do body work and all that stuff. It's like, dude, you just stick that on there. I just don't.
Another part that it can just like fling off.
Yeah, and then you could go wider in the front to get a little bit more contact patch, which is a problem with those cars because they are pretty skinny up front. So there are times when you're like really pushing on track or in the mountains where you wish you had a little bit more contact patch in the front compared to like more modern GT cars have like, you know, huge contact patch in the front and the rear. We're, you know, in the 997 and the 996 guys are at a detriment because, yeah, we have big tires out back, but that front where the steering's at, you know, there's not a lot up there. I think that maybe 265's up there, maybe, I think. So it's not that much if you think about it for a performance car that's supposed to be putting down, you know, some nasty lap times.
Yeah, back in his day.
Yeah.
the Dyno GT cars.
Yeah, so,
For sure.
I mean, it's a great car. I mean, I hate using the term dream car because you know, that car came out in 07, so it couldn't have been like a dream car. You know, when it came out, even though I was in my 20s, I thought it was cool. I didn't know what it was. I'm like, what's a GT3? I don't know what that is. Because there just wasn't, you know, that was pre-social media. That was you were either on the forums reading about them, and I think there was still a lot of like lore about the car that you didn't know yet. Like now, obviously, information passes and all that other stuff, but when they were new, I don't know, I don't want to say they weren't exciting, there just wasn't a lot of data to go on and be like, these are going to be badass, or these are the ones. So like, it's like anything, when something's current, it's not as sexy, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I now thinking back at it, like I knew about the 3RSs, and that was just because of the colors. That wasn't because of like marketing or anything. I don't think they really even had any type of thing saying that these things were cool. It was still dominated by the turbos.
Exactly.
Which is kind of not the case anymore since they have the flashiest of 992 3RSs now. Yeah,
and we've all seen it, especially if they're listening to this podcast. You know, we're telling people things they already know. Like we saw what happened to Porsche basically once 991 came out. Like that's when, you know, YouTubers / Hot Boy Money, all that was, whatever you want to call those guys, started getting into Porsche, and then the 991 GT3RS came out, and they were coming out in lavish colors, you know, like, oh my God, lava orange and, you know, ultraviolet purple. Oh, you can PTS a car, like, and that's where really I feel like with Porsche took a lot of, you know, steam and got a lot of energy and got a lot of people interested, and social media was blossoming around that time, and so there was cars being posted and people doing cool stuff with them, and there was a lot of people, maybe it didn't have one, that were aspiring to own one. So like it changed the entire GT dynamic, like really.
And now everybody's trying to retroactively do that with recommissions and everything else. I heard there's like a backlog of 4.0s being recommissioned.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the same thing, and you know, a lot of people may or may not know those were kind of problematic when they first came out. I think,
yeah,
because they were so high strung, like that was just a car for Porsche where, I mean, a lot of them got engines replaced under warranty because they grenaded due to crankshaft issues, and there was, you know, there's still a lot of people that are like, oh, you know, that thing, that's the GOAT. You know, if you really break it down, I'm not saying it's not a great car. It's a beautiful car. It's an amazing car. It's crazy that Porsche did that with the Metzger, but at the same time, it's kind of like at tolerance levels, were they was it a little too much? Who knows? I mean,
and now they're just putting 4 liters in everything. So I mean, there's that. I mean, I did see the first time I saw one in person was in Stuttgart. I was shopping T-shirts in the little Porsche shop. I walked outside and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. There's a 4.0 there." And I saw this little tag dangling off of it. I was like, "Wow, what does that say?" Oh, in German it said "does not start." I was like, "Oh, well, that's a problem." So yeah, I guess there is true. There was. I mean, but again, special product, and they were learning, and they've kind of figured that game out.
Yeah, clearly, right, and even a lot of independents have figured that out too, right, where they've figured out how to make these cars produce and what they need to be a little bit like more reliable. You know, you hear these 4.1 builds, 4.2 builds out of these Metzger engine cars. I mean, there's no doubt that obviously the lineage and the heritage, that the winning motorsport side of things, that they're, you know, the bulletproof, knock on wood engine for Porsche. But, you know, for me, I think I don't know, I think that they're so capable out of the box. You know, like I said, I have bolt-ons, I have tune, I have headers, exhaust. I mean, I don't know if you'd call it exhaust. It's just pipes. I think technically to be called a exhaust, you have to have some baffling. But yeah, they're extremely capable, and I don't know. I mean, maybe if I spend an immense amount of time, I would get much better with the car. But I don't know if I'll ever be able to drive that car to the limit that it's capable of, because you start to get into that 9/10 with that car, and it gets pretty hairy, like, because you don't have anything really saving you other than you. So then you're in a situation, if you're driving beyond your limit, like, it's going to be exposed very quickly, and the car will not forgive you. So I think because of that bar I will never pass that bar because of that. Like, I'll probably ride up to that part. I'll get to that point where I'm like, this is as fast as I can drive this car. So adding speed to that isn't going to make me any quicker. You know, adding power to that, excuse me, not just speed.
Danger.
Yeah, like adding more horsepower to that is not going to make the car handle more. It's just going to make it even more, like, where it would work is if I'm sloppy apexing and I'm in the wrong gear, the power will pick me back up where I need to be, like, whether if I'm on track or if I'm in the mountains, so I don't, like, fall behind. Like, that's the cheater part of it. Like, that's where that horsepower comes in, where you're kind of like, as opposed to, like, if you miss a gear or you apex wrong, now you're being left by the GT car that's in front of you, and you don't have enough power to make up that difference. So now you're not following anymore. Now you're leading. So,
yeah, for sure. So 2 quick questions, and I'll let you go because I know you have a hard stop. And
we can run a little bit more if you have some stuff.
Okay.
It's no big deal.
So my question was, money. Say you do get the windfall, do you ever get an RS?
You know, I've played that mental exercise in my head many, many times. The only way I think I could end up with an RS, and obviously you're speaking 997 Gen, right? Because you're not. Yeah, because this is a Metzger show, right? Okay, so I think if I ended up with an RS, it would have to be like a very high mile one, because I would not be comfortable paying the amount of money that they now command because I want to use the car. Like, I wouldn't be buying it to park it. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm saying I wouldn't want to pay a premium to then depreciate that premium that I paid just to add miles on it. Because where that car is entered now, it's entered into a Ferrari-esque like situation where the lower the miles on them, the more valuable they are. But there's still a threshold. So like, I haven't seen one, but you know, I mean, not in person, like for sale. I posted one just recently. It had 223 kilometers. That was at, you know, RPM Technic over in England, which equates to almost like 170,000 miles on a 997 RS, which is, that guy's a legend for driving that car like that. That's what I would want to do with mine. I would want to drive it like that. But I would imagine that guy probably didn't pay $300,000 for it when it had 25,000 miles on it, and then go rip down 150,000 miles on it and then make it worth 100. What, I don't even know what that would be worth. I don't know what the ask on that would be. Would probably high one.
Even if it's worth,
it would still probably be not like, it's not going to be like given away, but it'll probably still be like 175 for that car with 175,000 miles. Like, at that price point, that's still not a good proposition for me, because I'm like, that's a lot of money for that to buy a car at that level. Like, now if it was like 125, I think everybody and their mother would buy that car, right? Obviously. We've seen what Metzger engines can do. Like, you've had a guy on your rally that's knocked down 750,000 miles in a 996 turbo. So, I mean, are they capable of putting down massive miles? Yes. I have like 68,000 miles in mine, and, you know, that seems like a lot, but it's not. So the short answer, or the long answer, I should say, is probably not, because I'm not comfortable paying the price point that car commands for the things I want to do, because I'm not a collector. Like, I don't let things sit around. I self-proclaimed, like, I have an idea of like the kind of person I am. I'm more of a driver. I like to experience the car behind the wheel and push the car. So it makes no sense for me to pay top dollar for a low mile car. And unfortunately, where they're at in the price point, it's going to be hen's teeth finding one it's got a ton of miles on them moving forward for the rest of our lives. Like, most of them are always going to have sub 30,000 miles on them. And if they do, they're 250 plus. So it's kind of like, that ship has sailed for me. So unfortunately, I know it's not a Metzger car, but if I end up with an RS, it's probably going to be a PDK RS. It's going to be probably a 991 gen, probably a .2 if I can afford it. But I do like the .1 UV car. So if I end up with an RS, unfortunately, the market financially has pushed me into that area, because those are running at 180, 190. And it's like, okay, it's not a manual car, it's not a Metzger car, but it's still an RS. And you can drive it and probably put miles on it, and you're not paying some crazy premium just because it's a Metzger car, it's a manual car, all of the things that make that car more valuable. So unfortunately, yeah, I mean, we have time to tell the story about the pumpkin car that I could have bought that I couldn't afford, but I should have bought.
Yeah, there we can go. Because I was gonna mention, there was a local guy. You know about that guy, the pumpkin that rides around here. It's like he spent, I don't know, 70 on it, maybe.
Yeah. But he bought a long time ago. That's
yeah.
And that's the thing is, like, you can get jaded if you've been paying attention and you've been in the game long enough. You see this price point. I mean, there was one in California that had Recaros in it. I think it had a minor Carfax. It wasn't on the rear; it was on the front. Like, I think it had a front bumper replaced, and they had photos. It wasn't crazy. It was on Renlist. I didn't like the combo. It had PCCBs on it, so like the orange on the yellow, that looked weird. It didn't matter. I couldn't really afford the car. Like, remember I was telling you, like, my threshold was like 110. They wanted like 120, like 120 flat for the car, and it was even if they wanted 110 for the car, I would have been really reaching. But I did reach out to the guy. I was like, hey, would you do? He's like, I priced it at this just to move it. Like, I'm not even entertaining anything other than what my ask is. So that wasn't going to happen for me. And that car sold pretty quickly, and that was the cheapest one I'd ever seen for sale listed anywhere. I know you say overseas, you know, they're listed cheaper than here in general, but
They're right now they're like 160s ish.
yeah, that is cheaper than here.
But again, finding one and bringing it back, you'd still be under, at least rough math currently. I think you'd still be in like under 2.
Yeah, and then like what's the
like
tariff situation on those, right? Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like even that, I mean, I don't think you'd even be pushing 2. So you'd still save some money, but then again, you can't import it unless it's show or display at this point. You'd have to buy
because
it
they're
and sit
not
on it
even
until
they're
it's-
not even. But would it even? Could you import it though? Because we sold that car in the U.S. I don't know enough because I didn't do the research, but like for what I do as a job, like from what I understood is if we sold the exact same car in the U.S., then there isn't a wait period. Meaning, like 964 RSs were never sold here, but 2007 GT3 RS was sold here in Pumpkin.
Yeah, I don't know.
So,
I know
like-
that guy. You know what? I should talk to. There's a guy in Miami that has one that has a. Well, I don't think he sold it, but he had a Pumpkin Club Sport.
Yeah.
So not even they'd never sold a Club Sport
Exactly.
here that I'm aware of with a full cage, but he still had one.
So
So-
I thought, I'm not trying to get like blasted by anybody that listens to you. I'm not saying I know the knowledge, but I thought I had heard, like when you say you have heard, like when you have conversations with other friends that have imported cars and it's all hearsay, but I've heard if the exact same car is being sold in the U.S. that's being sold in the EU, there isn't a timeline wait on the car. It shouldn't be, at least.
But there's also a list. So if it goes on the non-conforming list, then
True.
Then maybe with those two things aligning, then yeah. But then even that, like there's some crazy things they can require. At least I've heard from other people that have done stuff like all the airbags have to match, and then you'd have to like dumb things like that. But
yeah, I don't know the extent of
I
it, but
still
like
think
you would think,
even
like
if you
man math wise, you would
wait.
think because it doesn't have any different crash test stuff in it. Like the only difference is if it was a Club Sport Euro car, if they want to get real sticklers about it, like all right, then you got to take the cage out for inspection, and then you can put it back in after it passes inspection. I mean, it's a bolt-in.
full cage, which is really cool.
Yeah, so it's not that big of a deal, but maybe it is. I don't know. Like I don't know enough, but again, I guess if it was that easy and if there was that much profitability, I think we would see a place in the
Everybody
U.S. that would
doing
just
it. Or
be
people are doing it.
yeah. But I meant like a boutique place that's just buys them all and just ships them because there's enough profit margin there to say, okay, hey, we just bought a bulk of these at 170, 180, whatever it is to get them here, and now we're selling them at 250. And
I think we had a conversation offline. With our
people will still be
Atlanta-
excited to pay $250 for them because you got a batch of pumpkins in there or whatever the number, whatever it is. I still think even at that number,
Still a lot.
yeah, I'm in love with those cars. Like I will always have a soft spot for them, and I just don't. I think it's just one of those things. It's just a pipe dream. It's just going to have to live in my head to the end of time. Of that would be nice if I could have one of those, but be happy for.
I think we need to drive one. We need to review one just to get it out of our system.
I mean, I know a couple people that have them, and
Yeah. Just to see.
my buddy Charles in Georgia has one, and they're, he got a great deal on his. It's got a little bit of a story with it, but nothing like detrimental. Like, it's just one of those things where they're so cool.
I feel like your car, like yes, yes, the RSs are cool, but I feel like your car is close. Got to be close.
Well,
As far as,
from
like,
a power standpoint, there's no difference, right? Like not on the dot ones at least. Like
Yeah.
body wise, the millimeters on the RS, it's a little bit wider. Obviously, it's got it's a slick top. Most of the 997.1s
No, yeah, you
are sunroof boys.
Sunroof, so it's fine.
The crazy thing about it is like, have you talked about this on the show already about the sunroofs on those 997.1s? Because I
have not.
I don't want to be redundant.
No.
So I didn't know this, but somebody who worked at Porsche North America told me this. It used to take orders for those cars. There's two. It's not like a super long story, but there's two folds to why this happened. So everybody thinks that it was required by Porsche to have a sunroof in that car. It wasn't required. There was a sheet where that box was you know, like when you select options on a car, it was an automatically checked box. So if you were buying the car, you could have unchecked the box. Like, for the people that knew, could have done that. But there's a lot of people that didn't know. Now, the second part of that story is not a lot of people were ordering GT3s in 2007. They were just dealer ordered, and they would show up, and then they were doing the old school thing. People would come in. They would have clients that already had. They would call them up on the phone just like they do now. Hey, I got this GT3. I know you've bought like 6 or 7 cars from us. You should really check this out. And they're like, what is a GT3? And all this other stuff. So Porsche dealers didn't uncheck that box because they thought that that was a selling feature because the car was so stripped down, it would help them sell the cars to clients that didn't understand the car, because that was a complaint with the 996 GT3. So the dealers thought they learned a lesson where they're kind of like, well, what do you mean? You want me to pay $100,000 for a car? It doesn't even have a sunroof? Like that's where the
sports cars that.
Yeah, that's where the consumers were for Porsche. Like that was their demographic of buyer at the time. They didn't have these like super hardcore guys that were in there like, why isn't this a slick top? There is now. So yeah, it was an interesting time. So it was a two-step situation where dealers really weren't taking a lot of orders on them. They were ordering them just like regular cars and bringing them in. So they were trying to check up options on the cars to make them more sexy and more appealing to street consumers that were coming in off the street to buy the car. So but you could have checked that box or unchecked the box, I guess it would be. Yeah, unchecked the box. So it was an auto check, but you could have unchecked it and got a slick top. It wasn't some like North American rule where you're like, every car has to have a sunroof. It just happened that no one unchecked the box. That's what happened with that car.
It's too much work.
It is. So it's one of those weird anomalies where you and I discussed this offline. I don't think this will ever be a factor, but maybe someday when we're really old, like maybe some weird people will be like, dude, it's the only GT3. It does have a sunroof. Like, that's so cool. Like, we don't think it's cool. I don't think it's cool. I don't like that my car has a sunroof. I have never opened it once because I'm afraid to open it.
Do you think it's ever been opened?
I'm sure at some point in its life it had to have been. Like, whoever bought it knew. I'm sure they did it, like, initially. Yeah. And I'm sure it works fine, but maybe the seals are dry rotted by now because it hasn't opened in probably 10, 15 years.
Ironic thing is it still leaks.
Yeah, right.
Never opened it.
So yeah, I don't want to mess with it. The mechanism's probably dead, and who knows? Since it's never worked. You know how like mechanical parts need to be used, since it hasn't been used in, I don't know, 10 plus years. So I don't ever plan on opening it anyways. I don't ever want to test it. So it is what it is. It just, for me, aesthetically, it pisses me off because I look at the roof line and I see that outline and it just like, ugh.
Even a Carrera S, same.
Yeah, man. You know, aero kit car, dude.
I think we can end it there.
All right.
So everybody.
Yeah, buy you an aero kit car. And just put
Exactly.
a GT3 badge on it. No one will know
Why
the
not?
difference.
Everybody's doing it.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being on, Mike.
All right, see you, buddy.